Did I say bi-weekly Overlord videos? I meant tri-weekly. No, wait, that doesn't make sense. Nah, in all seriousness, I'm really sorry about the delay. Work's been a bit of a hassle. But welcome back anyway to the third installment of my Overlord Explained series. Today we're going to be looking at the world of Yggdrasil, the dive massively multiplayer online role-playing game that Suzuki Satoru, aka Momonga, aka Ainz, was in the moment he was transported to the New World. Now, don't get the New World and Yggdrasil confused with each other, because they aren't one and the same. The world that Ainz was transported to, which is now referred to as the New World, although bearing many connections and similarities to Yggdrasil, it's not the world from the game. So in case you thought that Ainz was just transported to the actual game world, just like how I did for much longer than I'm willing to admit, it's best to think of them as two separate entities. Back to the topic of the video. What makes up the world of Yggdrasil? From characters and classes to mechanics and magic, I'm going to go through the components of the game that made Yggdrasil, well, you know, Yggdrasil. There is quite a lot of information to cover, so I am going to split this video up into two parts. So let's start with the basics. What exactly is a DMMO-RPG? Obviously, a dive-type game isn't something that exists in the real world. Yet, the dive aspect consists of a connection from the console to the brain through a neural nano interface. Consider this the gear that allows the players to enter the game and experience this virtual world as real life, with the exception of smell and taste. Not to mention that the sense of touch was also highly limited in order to allow players to distinguish themselves from the real world. In addition to the limitations to the senses, any DMMO-RPG also had to abide by strict rules that forbid adult-rated actions such as the inappropriate touching of other players. It was for this reason that players were kept under close watch so that in the case that these actions did occur, the accused player's account could be deleted immediately. It was actually these restrictions that had allowed Ainz to distinguish Yggdrasil from the New World. By fondling Albedo, recounting his senses, and taking into account that it was highly illegal to make a player unable to log out of the game, he was able to quickly determine that he was not playing Yggdrasil anymore. The game itself, however, was created in the year 2126 as an open-world exploration game where knowledge was key. Nothing other than the controls were made known to the player. This had put a very high value towards new information regarding the game. New classes, items, and locations were always found, but almost never intentionally shared publicly so as to not give other players the advantage. To put into perspective how massive this game actually was, in the game's 12-year lifespan, only 30% of the game's 9 worlds were mapped. And if you're familiar with Norse mythology, then you'd know exactly what 9 worlds I'm referring to. Yggdrasil is named after the world tree that acts as the center of the universe to bridge the 9 realms of Norse mythology together. Unlike the new God of War, which only showcases the 9 realms, in Yggdrasil, you can actually travel to each and any of them, from Asgard and Midgard all the way to Alfheim and Helheim. Each of them were said to be approximately 3 times the size of Tokyo, which if we do some quick maths, that's about 6,600 square kilometers, which is about the size of Delaware or Prince Edward Island. It's just really big. So you could see how it would be difficult for all these players to fully discover every nook and cranny that's in a game that has the combined size of Ireland. Not to mention that the more you travel from the center of the world, the harder the areas become to traverse. Higher level monsters and enemies become more prominent, landscapes require specific equipment to travel across, and you wouldn't even try to enter a dungeon unless you were fully prepared with a solid strategy but also ready to die, because odds are you weren't completing that on your first attempt. Not only were the worlds massive though, the designs of them were also very intricate, with each being vastly different from the other while still staying true to their roots in Norse mythology. Unlike No Man's Sky, where diversity was pretty much non-existent, there were multiple layers that added to the experience. It wasn't just a simple what you see is what you get type deal. There were areas that would only reveal themselves under certain weather conditions or times of day. The number of secrets that could be hidden within any given area could have been endless. That's why when someone or some guild would come across one of those secrets by chance, they couldn't just very well give out that information for free. Who knows what hidden loot they would be able to find to make their characters and equipment stronger. Now, before I wander off into a whole nother conversation about high-tier loot and where to find them, I think I should get into the mechanics that make up the player characters first. When starting Yggdrasil, you get to only make one character, so you'd have only one chance to put together the right combination of race and classes to get the skills that you like. Creating the ideal build was no easy task. It required a lot of testing. People would try to min-max, which is the concept of leveling only the aspects of your character you wanted to specialize in and lowering all others. This resulted in characters being distinguished either as those with balanced ability distribution or as those with heavy specialization. Each had their own perks and downsides. But whether you were a specialized character, or a player that just wanted to have a level in 100 different classes, it all came down to what race and class you decided to level up. As I'm sure you already know, the max level one can reach in the game is 100, and for each level that you gain, you can distribute it into either a racial class or a job class. Leveling was done by either killing monsters or other players, which in turn would give experience points that added to a total which made up your level. Typical RPG stuff. You could also lose levels by dying, but we'll get more into that mechanic later. What's important to know right now are how the races and job classes work. So let's start with the less complicated racial classes, consisting of 3 main types that then diverge into over 700 subclasses. The first of the 3 are Humanoid, which of course consists of humans, then other human-like races such as dwarves and elves. This race was unique because racial levels weren't applied to them, allowing for all 100 level points to be distributed into the job classes. This made it easier to learn more powerful skills, giving the humanoids a lot of potential to become very strong. The Demi-Human race consists of ogres, minotaurs, beastmen, and many other mythical creatures typically found in fantasy settings. Unlike the humanoids, they can level up their racial classes and gain racial skills from it. Then there's the Heteromorphic race, which is the category that all the members of Ainz's guild fell into. These players can be anything from angels and demons to dragons and zombies. They have the most powerful base stats and gain the most from their racial level in exchange for limiting the number of levels that they can put into their job classes. Now I know what you're thinking. As cool as it would be to walk around as a brain eater that looks like the incarnation of Cthulhu, you may be surprised to know that the Heteromorphic race was the least popular of the 3. One of the reasons attributing to this is that there would be no player kill penalty towards the Heteromorphic race. So any human or demi-human could kill a heteromorph anywhere and not be punished for it, whereas PKing a human would incur that penalty. Heteromorphs were also excluded from certain classes and cities within the game. So does that classify as racism? I'm pretty sure it does, right? The game really did make it hard for heteromorphs to get by, especially when they make skills that can only be gained through mass murdering a bunch of heteromorphs. I mean, I get that they're only one step away from being monsters, but god damn, I don't think the devs had to make it so that the entire non-heteromorphic population of the game would actually treat them as monsters. I guess they were going for that hyper-realism. Now let's move on to what's considered to be the most fundamental element of Yggdrasil customization. It was possible for every character in the game to have a unique build because of the infinite possibilities that came from having over 2,000 unique job classes. What's rolling across the screen right now is just a select few examples, but you could essentially pick and choose from these in any combination as long as you put a level into it. Meaning, as I said, it's technically possible to have a character that has 100 level 1 classes, but that would also affect the tier level of magic that you are capable of using, which I'll get to in the next video. It was often better to go for an optimized build of 5 to 7 classes consisting of base, high, and rare types. The base type was allowed a maximum of 15 levels to be placed into it, high allowed 10, and rare allowed 5. Every time that a class was leveled up, 3 spells would become available to choose from an extensive list relating to that class. That allowed for a combined total of 300 spells at a player's disposal once they've reached the max level of 100. Classes could be anything from combat-focused holy knights and paladins to more magic-focused clerics and druids. You could even be a chef or an insect master. There also exists special hidden classes that are unique to specific builds like Ainz's Eclipse. It's really all dependent on how your base build is set up and how you want your character to function in the game. Then, as you level up your desired races and job classes, you'd be able to learn more spells that grant new moves and earn skill points that increase stats. The number of skill points earned to boost a player's stats are dependent on your race. Humanoids would only earn 1, demi-humans earn 2, and heteromorphs earn 3, giving them the highest stats and making their skills and abilities significantly stronger at full build compared to a human or a demi-human. So does this all make sense right now? Because I'm not entirely sure if I'm presenting this in a very digestible fashion. I really do hope this all makes sense, because the amount of detail that was put into crafting this game that isn't even the world that the story takes place in is astonishing. I haven't even touched the guilds, items, combat, tier magic, and a whole lot of other different things related to this game. So please let me know if you're getting what I'm saying. But that's all I'm going to cover for now, so don't forget to let me know in the comments if I got anything wrong so that I can make corrections in future videos. Also, a huge thanks to the team in the Discord for helping me out with the research for this video. Especially Much Moonies, because he literally wrote out his own wiki for me. God bless this man's hard work. Of course, I can't forget the others either, so thanks to Archel, Atelier God, Queen Celeste, Gondo, and Akai Dragon. So as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this type of anime content, then you already know what to do. So until next time, ciao!